I just had
Yes,
a question. Did you mean your personal LinkedIn account or like the LinkedIn account for this program? I'm not sure.
I will. Let me put my personal one on here. I apologize. Yeah, usually I use my personal one. I am not on my computer today, so just bear with me because I'm a little bit slower than usual adding all of these things. And that is another thing I'll invite people to do. You can always add your LinkedIn profile on the chat and share it with everybody else on the call, just in case you want to um, connect with somebody else. You're more than
Yes.
welcome to do that.
Yeah, there's mine. Happy to connect with all of you with any questions you guys may have later and or now. Um, who doesn't love LinkedIn? Like that is like the place to be.
It's probably the only. Well, I think it's a social media platform of professional. I feel like I use it a lot more than everything else. Awesome.
Yeah, for sure. I think so too. I think so too. I see that. Um, and it still stays professional, right? Like I think that
Hmm.
people post and they still post with a professional vibe to it, which is good. Um, it's just a great way to network. That's where I've been able to
Hmm.
find a lot of people that either that I stalk because I admire them, so I stalk them on LinkedIn, or that just trying to find someone with a particular expertise for clients of ours. Yeah, that's definitely the place to be.
All right. So, okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and introduce Dr. Patty. I'm just going to do a quick bio, so then I'll let you introduce yourself because I know there's so much that you've done. I've already shared with Dr. Patty, but for the new people here, this student meetup just kind of came from the idea of having a place for students at any academic journey level. I don't know what that was. Just so you can come and ask questions and just come and just really trying to figure it out as we go. Sometimes with the IO field, depending on which program you're in, there's not a lot of guidance. So we try to bring a lot of practitioners to come in here and help us find some answers to which part of IO we even want to get into. Because I mean, as we all know, it's so vast and it's so great, but sometimes it can be so overwhelming and confusing. So today Dr. Pratt is going to talk to us about a couple of things that I'm really excited for her to talk about. And I'm just going to be super transparent here. I am one of those stalkers. I've stalked you, Dr. Patty, for a while.
Thank you.
Yeah, I've loved a lot of the work, and I think I've said it in here. As an immigrant Mexican woman, it was really hard to find people that looked like me, that sounded like me, that was very similar to what I grew up with. And for a long time, I think it's been the past 2 years that I've been able to come across your work and what everybody else that you're connected with are doing. And I mean, I've been on my academic journey for almost 8 years. And I mean, 2 years ago is the first time that I'm like, oh, Latino women, what? Dr. Delgado, what? Like just all of the same last names, and to be able to hear that to me was very inspiring. So thank you for that. And then I'll let you introduce yourself.
Yeah, no, thank you. That's awesome. I love when stalkers admit stalking. No, I appreciate it. This is it's great to be in a place also, like you said, Gabby, where it's very, we're just here to learn from each other. It's a safe space to ask questions. It's just a space for us to continue growing as we do in our careers and especially in the learning and especially in the IO field. IO is my everything. And was definitely the place I wanted to be when I was in my graduate studies, but I didn't quite know I was doing IO. So I was doing a lot of work in IO type work, but just not knowing that it was IO until now that the field is becoming more popular and there's a lot more to IO. It's great to see the talent that's coming from it, but I still think there's side of a misunderstanding of what we do, our expertise, who we are. And so happy to discuss that. But thank you for having me. Yes, my name is Dr. Patty Delgado. I'm originally from the Sun City of El Paso, Texas, which is right on the border of Mexico and New Mexico. We're the only city in the US, I always say, that borders two towns or two states and two countries all at the same time. So we are a very culturally relevant Hispanic community. 89% Hispanic community to give a number. And so it's a different vibe that goes on in El Paso, but it's a beautiful traditional vibe and a very welcoming community. For those of you that have been part or know or have experienced the Hispanic community. And so a little bit of my background, I did go to the University of Texas at El Paso. I actually started off in Minnesota in a small town, in a small private college. And that was the first day that I learned I was a student of color. Coming from a predominant Hispanic community like El Paso, we did not talk about race, racism, any of those topics. I think Hispanics, there's a slight still stigma when it comes to these topics. So when I went to school in Minnesota, I was recruited because I was a student of color. And I was put, I remember walking into the Multicultural Center because they told us, oh, you're a student of color, you go to the Multicultural Center. I'm not gonna say the name of the college because they tried, but they didn't do a great job in their work of putting, student of colors as part of their, I guess, feeling comfortable. But they had us all go to the Multicultural Center. I remember they placed a name tag on my chest. I had my name and it said student of color. And that was the first experience I had with my own identity, cultural identity, and who I was as a minority, as a woman of color. And so from there on, I did end up leaving, unfortunately, the college because I was not prepared to navigate the different challenges that come with being part of another type of group, whether if it's a racial group or LGBTQ plus group or disability, whatever group that you're part of, if it's not set up to be inclusive, you'll definitely feel it. And that's what I did. So I did have to leave and finished at the University of El Paso. I had the wonderful opportunity of marrying a military gentleman and was now a military spouse. So I am a military spouse, retired. My husband retired and moved to the East Coast in the DC, Washington DC area, which was amazing. Very multicultural, had a lot of great opportunities, was doing IO work already. So my IO work came from working at a bank, doing tracking numbers, right? How many checking accounts were people doing, kind of keeping track of we called it like a scorecard, basically. So that's a little bit of IO where you're tracking numbers, you're tracking efficiency, you're tracking effectiveness, you're tracking where the gaps are in people's performance, which back then I didn't know that was IO. Then from there, I moved on to doing a complete project on the balanced scorecard. So if you all in the field that have not heard of what the balanced scorecard is, it is an IO tool that organizations can use to measure their customer, their client, their operations. There's 4 quadrants to the balanced scorecard. And so I had the opportunity of leading a whole project with 12 departments and getting them key performance indicators, which again is also IO, and helping them kind of keep track of how they're measuring their efficiency and their effectiveness and their success. Again, not knowing any of this was IO, right? And then I received my master's in leadership because back then there wasn't really IO programs. So my master's was in leadership and organizational development. And then went into training and development. So I don't know if any of you are currently in training and development in the IO field, or do training curriculum development, or even organizational development work. That's where I landed a lot of my IO skills as well. So we created trainings, I facilitated a lot of trainings, we did a lot of surveys, and I led what we called a cultural transformation at the organization, the nonprofit that I was part of. And so all that, again, being IO, right? We're studying the culture. I was studying the people, the values, and using a lot of Shine's work, Dr. Shine's work. I'm sure you know of Dr. Shine and all the books that he's written on culture and how to manage culture in an organization. Again, not knowing until I started my doctoral program. And so my doctoral program was in IO specifically. So yes, I've kind of come through IO from different fields. So I went from corporate banking to nonprofit to, again, back to banking because I was a military spouse, so I always had to find a new job. But I was able to always apply IO to everything I did. So any questions you all have, happy to answer on how you can even amplify your IO skills in the job that you're currently doing. And then I had the brilliant idea of opening my own business. And I opened the Bridgify Group, which is a research firm. But we do one thing that IOs do, but we don't always realize we're doing is we translate academic research into practice. So all of our clients at the Bridgify group are clients that need help in fixing a problem in their organization, whether if it's right, the hybrid workplace was a big thing after COVID, right? How do I get my people back to work? What does the research say? So we do a lot of that research and we provide them all that information, translate it, synthesize it, simplify it, so they can use that, these C-suite leaders, in their strategy making. And so they're not making decisions based off of, oh, so-and-so told me to do it this way. Oh, my friend at so-and-so ABC company said this works. We teach our clients that, be vigilant information seekers, understand your organization is not like your friend's organization, understand that there's specialties in your organization. So we're also always educating our leaders to make informed decision-making strategies. And then the quiet, what was happening in 2 years ago, the silent quitting, right? That was a big thing 2 years ago, where people were just quitting and they felt empowered to quit, which was wonderful. But now organizations called us and they're like, oh my God, what do we do? Retention. What do we do with retention? How do we do recruitment better? And so we did a lot of research around effective recruitment and retention strategies based off the industry, based off the client, and so forth. And so that was one. And then I'm trying to think, then COVID was done, right? So kind of that whole back to work is flex work was another big topic we researched a lot, because I think organizations were confused. They were naming in their policies like hybrid workplace, remote workplace, flex workplace. There's a lot of words and they weren't quite utilizing the right words. So a lot of the employees were very much confused. Then they would come to us and be like, we don't understand why everybody's confused. And I'm like, well, what are you using? We're using remote work. Okay, is everybody working from home? No, some come into the office. I'm like, well, that's not remote work. That's hybrid work. And so then here we're educating our clients on the proper words to use. And so the Bridgify group has been around now for years. We have amazing interns that are part of our group. We have courses that we train on, and I'll actually share some information on the course that we're having coming up, how to be a research translator, which we believe is a very skill that anybody can use, that can really shine and put them ahead of their people that are applying. I know right now it's hard to find jobs. Put this skill set can help you be the one that stands out because you're evidence-based. You talk like an evidence-based practitioner. You're not just guessing. And so we teach our courses with this very academic level rigor, but then also very practitioner-based. And so we do have a course coming up in August, and I'll share some information on that. But that's a little bit about me and my journey. And being a business owner is wonderful. It's a lot of work, and there's a lot of, you do wear a lot of hats as you own your own business. But it's definitely been a privilege to be part of an entrepreneurship circle, and definitely to do a lot of different kinds of work. And so I'm happy to share the different kinds of projects that we've done. Right now, we're working with an amazing client in Boston around the topic of inclusive leadership and what is inclusive leadership. And they do a lot of wonderful work in Boston, and they've come to us to help create an assessment. And so here's another part of IO that we use is assessment creation. And so, yeah, just a lot of different things. And happy to answer any questions and how you guys can get more involved. What skill sets do you need? What part of IO do you want to be part of? So I guess I can categorize myself as an IO that is in the research side of IO. So I rely heavily on research. So I know a lot of qualitative and quantitative information. Statistics is heavy in my skill set. Assessment, creation, that type of work that you learned in statistics, all that I use a lot. Not really HR IO work. I don't do a lot of that. I do a lot of organizational work or organizational culture work in IO, organizational development work, sometimes even team development. So that's kind of where I use IO and have really created my skill set strongly around those different facets. So, so curious to hear from you all. Where are you guys doing? What part of IO are you in? How can I help you? Any questions that you guys have? Oh, I love that Jaime says I'm walking the dog while listening in. I love that. Multitasker, see? IO right there. Multitasking on how to do that.
You got to sharpen those skills anytime you can, huh?
Anytime. So I'm curious. So I don't know if any of y'all want to share kind of a little bit about your background Pascale, I don't know if you'd like to share, or Natalie, or tell me, Tayana, did I pronounce your name right, Tayana? Okay, perfect. Wonderful. Love to learn also about you all.
And please feel free to unmute and just jump in or raise your hand, Pascale.
Sure. Yeah, my name is pronounced Pascal. Thank you so much for
Pascal.
Thank you.
Sorry about that.
okay, so I basically have a background in psychology, thought I wanted to become a clinical psychologist, had a big wake-up call after work in mental health, and I'm now trying to redirect. So I'm just here to get a bit of experience about what working in IO is actually like. From what you shared, it sounds like my interests would probably align more with that organizational culture, teamwork side. So I would be really curious to just if you'd be able to share a little bit more about what the daily work of that looks like. I also have a research background, so I'd be curious to hear how that ties in. And part three of that is I have kind of a passion for working with nonprofits.
Okay.
And so far, when I've spoken to people, they've said that, oh, nonprofits, they don't really have the budget for IO psychs, so you'd probably be in the corporate world. And I was like, I don't know if that aligns with my values.
Yeah.
Kind of where I got stuck. So
Okay, perfect.
Oh,
No,
yeah.
congrats on your experience in clinical. So yeah, so I have a PsyD, which is not a PhD in IO psychology. It's like a clinical. I don't know if a lot of people don't understand the difference between a PhD and a doctorate, right? And so my PsyD is a doctorate in psychology. A medicine doctor, a doctor of medicine is a doctorate in medicine, although they're the same type of, program and outcome. I was very lucky to be able to do PsyD in IO versus PsyD in clinical, which is very unique. So when different clinical psychologists asked me, "Oh, you're a PsyD," and I said, "Yeah," and they, "Oh, you're clinical," and I'm like, "No, I'm IO," and they're like, "You're IO in PsyD?" I said, "Yeah, I had a really great program," and you don't find it a lot, so they sometimes call me the unicorn, which is cool. But your experience inside in having that clinical background is huge and is very transferable to IO because of just the behavioral aspect of people, right? I mean, we're dealing in a culture, if you want to talk about cultural, organizational culture and teams, it's all about how people behave and show up, right? What are the different facets of that human behavior that comes through that you probably learned a lot of in your mental health, training and education. So I am always very in awe of people that have that background of doing mental health, and also IO. So kudos to you on that. I think that's a big thing. And then as far as nonprofits, no, nonprofits have money. They just say they don't, so they can get more money. I'm just kidding. I don't know if that's really the case, but no, they do. We have a lot of nonprofit clients of ours that, yeah, sometimes we do give breaks because we do understand some nonprofits are starting off and things like that, but they do need the help. They do need that IO lens to be able to look at a situation comprehensively, because that's what we do. We don't just look at, let's say they need help in training their board. Okay, that's a big, like, board efficient, having an effective board. Some nonprofits ask us, how do we do that? Like, how do we encourage our board to be very inclusive and so forth? We look at that situation from all angles. Okay, well, let's talk about the process. Let's talk about the people. Let's talk about the different expectations. Let's talk about how does everybody feel with that's on the board. And so you're going to be able to bring all that skill set comprehensively to a nonprofit. And they do need help, because a lot of them, what we're noticing is they're now having to function as a corporate organization, even though they're nonprofit. They now have to have strategic plans. They have to be able to have key performance indicators if they're applying for grants and things like that. That's all, a lot of corporate organizations already have that in place. So they will need your expertise in researching and uncovering these key performance indicators and helping them advance their mission, because they're very mission oriented, not strategically oriented. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Even another skill set I would look into for you is strategic planning, like how to do that with a group. What would a nonprofit need to create a strategic plan? So that's another part of IO, is just strategic planning and strategic advising would be another great thing. They need help, and just how to hone their whole mission into a plan of 5 years, 1 year, 5 months, next month, like, right? And what are the goals they're setting, those small goals they're setting to achieve that plan? They need a little bit of help to structure that. So I think there's a lot of opportunity for you.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing all of that. That's exciting to hear.
You're welcome. No problem. Yes, and there is you, and I think, are you looking to do like consulting or just kind of come after you're done with school, kind of say, hey, I want to nonprofit, this is who I am, this is how I can help you. Is that what you're trying to do maybe in the future?
I'm not sure yet. From what I've heard, the consulting world can be, I don't know what the right word is. I guess the high level consulting world who I've spoken to, I've heard is like a lot of travel and maybe more on that corporate end and not working with nonprofits. So anyway, but yeah, potentially consulting or seeking out a specific organization.
Yeah. No, I think it's wonderful that I just here reading SIOP, they have an IO nonprofit group. That's wonderful that SIOP was able to do that because yeah, the nonprofits again, they're having to start to function as a organization versus a nonprofit. Their leaders are having to start to think how to be strategic in the decisions that they're making and where the money is going. That's all, very much out sometimes in nonprofits out of their wheelhouse and out of their normal conversation. And so, yeah, so I think there's a lot of opportunity.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. And if you're leading with your heart, right, you're working with nonprofits that you believe in their mission, you can't go wrong. You really can. I think that's, you're making a difference in that world and the world of the people that they're serving. So yeah. Happy to continue talking if you need anything.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
I will say Dr. Brady is responsive, so if you do reach out to her, I think you will get some answers. If you don't get your answers here, you can always reach out on LinkedIn. And that I was gonna just piggyback on what Pascal was saying. I think sometimes because we come from a different background, sometimes we may feel like, I didn't I didn't start my professional career specifically in IO. And I think that a lot of times is what gives us those I call them the superpowers because we come with additional skills and a tool set of different ways of seeing things, at different perspectives. And I think that helps a lot whenever you have a diverse background. Yes, Tiana, go ahead.
Hi, Dr. Petty.
Hi.
I just wanted to piggyback off of what Pascal said. I was just in the chat, I had just mentioned that at SIOP this year, there were a few people interested in doing nonprofit work in IO, and we kind of came to the conclusion that maybe we needed like a group to kind of talk those things through. So there is like an interest survey on my LinkedIn page if you wanted to check that out, Pascal. But just in terms of my background, I'm a current student. I'm into training and development. I am part of a research team where we do like applied projects using IO research. And one of the things we looked at was leadership training in girls. And we tested the effectiveness for this nonprofit that is doing that. So I really have a lot of interest in what you're talking about. And I just wanted to ask what type of training or just high level information do you give for kind of translating research into like everyday language? I had a professor that mentioned like he always would say, tell it to me as if I'm your grandma, was like the goal of communicating all of our wonderful findings. So I'm just curious, what specifically do you do or teach in that capacity?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I don't know if you knew right now I think it's probably gotten shorter, the gap, but 15-year gap from the time that research is published in a journal article to the time that it's actually translated and used into practice. And it's because of exactly that, right? We're speaking another language when it's being placed in a journal article. There's statistics, there's all these fancy terms that an everyday practitioner is kind of like, I don't understand. What's the main point? Like, get to the main point right after you read 40 pages of whatever the topic is that you've uncovered. What we do in our work and what we also teach in our courses is there is a process in downsizing the information so that it's simplistic enough at the end. And so we do have a framework called the Bridge Framework that we walk our students through so they can learn in this particular stage. In the B, this is what you're doing. In the R, this is what you're doing. In the I. So with the intent that at the end, you're creating a product or a solution or information simplistically enough that you could explain it to the grandmother or the fifth grader, whatever it is, right, that you're working with. And it's also connected to why is this even important for an organization to want, right? So whenever we work with our clients too, we ask a lot of questions on, okay, what industry are you in? Tell us about your customers, tell us about your leadership, tell us about this. So we do that inquiry type assessment, which we do in IO automatically. And then the different skill sets we teach on how to research and how to synthesize that research. So a quick one is if you're reading and if you're, let's say your topic is on inclusive leadership, like for us, inclusive leadership, they're looking at it from a social justice lens. And so when we look at research for that, I mean, we could go down rabbit holes. Like there's so much information. Like if you just do Google Scholar inclusive leadership, like you're going to get 30,000. So it's really honing in on what are those key terms? How do you use Boolean terms? How do you, or symbols, and how do you use search strings? And right, and really learning that first part of the research process, because once you can simplify it initially, then the simplification becomes easier at the end. So I don't know if that made sense, or if that makes sense when you're looking at a topic. Look at what exactly are you researching, and you have to understand from the client or from like your applied work that you do, what do we want to get at the end of this? And being very specific on that. Just like when you're writing a dissertation, they tell you you're not going to solve the world when you write a dissertation. You need to be very specific on your topic. And so it's kind of the same thinking, because once you're specific there, then the simplicity of it will start showing up for the end to be translatable to the practitioner. And then you'll understand that. It is a skill set though, because some people still stay very macro when they're researching and they can't simplify it enough, so they're talking over people's heads. Sometimes in PSYOP that happens, which sometimes I'm like, oh, I'm not going to sit through this PSYOP thing because like it's, they're talking too high level, right? And people are confused. They look like, deer in the headlights. Like, what are they? How do I use this in my work? So it is a skill set, but I think that IOs have a great position because we are researchers and we're practitioners. So we're doing both versus an MBA. And I'll put a link into a blog that we talked about the difference between IOs and MBAs versus an MBA is an expert in marketing finance. All the organizational facets, I guess, or layers that make organizations, but they don't know how to move from the research to the practitioner and move back and forth very easily. And so it sounds like you do that in your work, and it sounds like you're good at that. We teach very like specific how to hone in those skills to be a true research translator. And that's what we do in our courses.
So does it involve any like using like, because I know data visualization is really key right now, like being able to kind of give visual representations of our complex ideas and processes? Do you work or help with that or address that?
That would probably be at the end of the framework, of the bridge framework, because that's when you're creating your solution,
Okay.
right? And you're using visualization as a way of translating the solution. Here's a model, here's a framework. Here are competencies, however you do that. That's at the end. I think that's when you would bring that skill set, because some people are very visual learners, right? And they can comprehend a very complex concept visually. But before you even get there, it's like, well, what am I researching? What is the research topic? What exactly am I looking for? And so you still do that very honing in on in the beginning to ensure that you get to that simplicity at the end. And some programs, some IO programs, they teach us how to research. They tell us, oh, write this article, and you need 10 articles associated to it. And there's a lot of that going on, but there's a gap missing there of once you research, then what do you do with it? Like, what do I do now? I researched, I don't know, hybrid workplace. Now what do I do? Then it's those skill sets of, can I put it into a visualized concept? Can I create just nuggets of best practices? Can I just provide a form or even a checklist to an organization based off this research? Ensure your employees you're using the right terminology in hybrid workplace, check. Like there's a lot of simplistic ways that we can deliver this research to an organization or to a leader so they can use it right away. But it's a skill set, definitely.
Yeah, that's great. It's really holistic, the approach.
Yes,
Thank you.
it's comprehensively. It goes from the beginning to the end versus, programs that just teach us, oh, this is research. Oh, great. What do I do now?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Where do you work, if you don't mind me asking?
So I'm actually just a full-time student and researcher right now.
And research.
And I
Okay.
wrap up my program in December. So I'll be looking probably jobs towards the end of the year and into next year.
Okay, because you mentioned you do applied work, but is it through your program that you're doing the applied work?
So I'm a research associate in my program, and then we do applied work in a lab. Like there's a
Okay,
group of us that work under a principal investigator, and she gets various projects, and then we pursue solutions. So
nice.
it's kind of like we're learning and, getting experience. So it's a great opportunity.
Yeah, that's perfect. That's excellent, excellent experience for you that you can definitely hone in on in your resume. Really up talk that when you're talking with potential, employers, that you understand the importance of going from here to here, being evidence-based, not guessing, having data to solidify or to back up your solution. Yes, all that type of talking when you're interviewing, nobody's doing that. They're just saying, oh, I'm good at analyzing and looking at surveys or whatever, but you're good at that and the translation part because it's important, right? You're working with everyday nonprofit. I bet in this applied group with young women that you were doing, they're everyday people, and you have
Yeah.
to know how to, speak with everyday people, but then you have to know how to speak with an academic group as well. So yeah. You're on your way. That's wonderful. Congratulations. I'm
Thank you.
excited for you. Let me know how else I can help. Happy to help.
I do want to make some time so you can talk to us about this course that you shared with us on the chat. Please feel free to click on that link and get some information. But I think you mentioned something that's really important. Sometimes we can get lost in the academic jargon and just trying to share all these things. And it's almost like, and that's one thing I've noticed sometimes on LinkedIn, you always see the same terms, the same words, the same articles, the same arguments, and it's always, well, leaders need to do A, B, C, and D, and organizations need to blah 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 blah. And I think there's always this huge gap between how do we get people there. I know I've had conversations with leaders just in my previous workplace, and they've thrown that word inclusivity or DEI around, and I asked, what does that look like for this specific organization or institution, and they couldn't really say. They had an idea, and I have to really watch the way I ask that question as well, because then people tend to get a little bit defensive, like, well, I don't know. And, the point is never to make people feel like they don't know what they're doing, but really it's like, can we have a conversation about what does that even mean? What does that even look like in this institution? And what are we prepared for to have conversations about? And luckily it went really well, and they were able to look at their strategic plan in a different way, and to some of the implementations that we're working on, they were thinking about it in a very vague aspect. And
Right.
I was like, well, we can always get a consultant if y'all want to and get some some expertise from outside, so we don't have to figure out ourselves, because then that's also unfair, because we don't have all the tools that we need. And I was just a little person there, but I was glad that I was allowed to say those, kind of put those little seeds there, because I think it's really unfair to expect leaders and organizations to move forward with all of this great research and great ideas without helping them understand as well. They don't sit in classrooms like we do talking about these things with other like-minded people. But okay, so tell us about this awesome course that you got going on in the coming months, if I get that right.
Yes. So it starts in August. So this is an 8-week course, and I'll put we have like the course guide. I'll put that in the chat. So it's an 8-week course that we offer. This is our 3rd cohort that we're offering it. We have interns. The Bridgeford group is always looking for interns. And this is a way to also be considered for an internship with us after you take this course. But it's an 8-week course that goes through, again, understanding this framework of the bridge, right? Of starting with a problem. You would come into the course with an organizational problem that you have or that you're trying to solve in your studies, in your current program, master's program or so. You would go into, bring that problem in, and then we would walk you through how you would find the research for that problem. What is your research question? What are you trying to really uncover? Then how do you research? How do you research efficiently? Because if not, you can rabbit hole it like all day long, right? So how do you look at abstracts really quickly? How do you sift through a large amount of information? What we have now is AI, which is really helpful, but I have to warn you all, AI is not always correct. So if you're using AI to help you uncover a large amount of journal articles or articles on a particular topic, that's wonderful, but you'll always have to check your citations. You have to check the work, because it doesn't capture everything. So for example, I was using ChatGPT to help with uncovering some information for a chapter of a book that I was writing, and it was bringing up even our authors and citations that didn't even exist. So again, AI is wonderful, and there's a lot of like Elicit is another AI program that you can use. ChatGPT has other research programs if you opt into their 4.0. There's academic scholarly AI, there's Google's, Google Scholar. We provide a list of free ways of looking for journal articles, because I know sometimes if you don't have access to a database from a school, or you're out of school, you won't have access to these articles. So we provide this list. So the course helps you understand this process, and then how to do the process, and then how to create your solution at the end. So in the 8 weeks, you will be working with our faculty and coaches, and then at the end, you will do your own solution, and you'll present to the cohort your own solution. So it is not a lot of time. It's very self-paced, but you do meet every Saturday. So it's a little bit self-paced, but it's a little bit, let's have a conversation, like how this works. And we're on this stage, or who's confused, who's not confused. So our faculty are very intentional. We found that Saturday mornings works a lot. Our last program, we had participants from Nigeria. We had Croatia, an IO from Croatia that was in the class, one from England, an IO from England, and even an IO from Iran that's also part of our team. So there's we found that time frame worked for a lot of people, even if they weren't here in the US. So if you're looking for that extra skill set that's gonna set you aside from other IOs, this is the skill set. This is the skill set that you're not learning in your program. You're not learning even outside of your program, unless you have a very intentional program, like, I don't want to pronounce your name again. I'm sorry, Tawana, right? Did I say it right?
It's Tiana, but
Ayana,
Ty
I'm
is fine
sorry.
too. Yeah, no worries.
Ayana,
It's a tough one.
Tiana described to us, unless you have that opportunity to be very intentional in this kind of work, this is a great start. We've had doctoral students that come through the program and they're like, my program didn't even help me with this. Like, I didn't learn any of this until I came here to your course. So there's a lot of skill sets if you want to even go into a doctoral program that this course will prepare you for. So you're ready. You're ready to do a large amount of research fast, efficiently, and come up with solutions. Yeah. We do have a student discount, so that's on there. And unfortunately, our early bird discount has already passed, but the student discount is still available. So it's going to start in August 6th through September. And again, it's 8 weeks, and there is office hours with our faculty, the Saturday morning sessions that happen, and then an online based type program that you continue just moving through at your own time. We calculate about an hour a week is what you would be doing in work, because we know everybody's very busy. We understand people have jobs and they're doing, their programs, but it's about an hour a week, unless you want to put more, of course. That's always, we don't tell people to only put an hour. If you give it more, it's great. You just take more out of the class. And I hop in here and there. We're going to have a session on AI and research also. And then afterwards, you'll have the opportunity to apply for the internship directly with us, the Bridgerfied Group. And you would, as interns, you work directly with our clients, helping us research and being part of the team and understand what that looks like from a consulting perspective. So yeah, thank you for letting me explain all that.
Of course, it sounds like an amazing opportunity. I agree with a lot of the school programs don't usually cover everything that we need to know. I think I loved the school I went to, but I think I only had 2 to 3 courses that were IO specifically. One was consulting, one was an intro to IO, and another one, I can't remember what it was. And everything else was clinical. And
Mhm.
although helpful, because I come from the behavioral health world, it wasn't very helpful when I was trying to get into the field and trying to understand what I needed to do. So this sounds like a super cool opportunity for students. And is it okay if I share some of this after the fact,
Of
after
course.
we're over? Okay.
Yeah, totally okay. Yes, and you also get a certificate of completion. We also provide you a letter that you can use in your resume, or in your resume packet or your CV packet that explains to the employer what exactly the skill set is. We also provide any job recommendations, especially if you're interns with us. We support you throughout the whole time. So you're basically become part of what we say, part of our familia. You're part of our family. So.
And so if students can't make it to this specific cohort, when is the next one? How often do you have this courses?
We probably won't, so this will end in August. We will probably try to do one more before the end of the year. It's just, but when Christmas comes, everybody checks out. So
Yeah,
but we'll see if we can probably do one before the end of the year ends. If not, for sure, in January, we'll have another one that comes up.
perfect.
Mhm.
Does anybody have any questions about this? All right.
Hello.
Remember you.
Hi.
Oh, yes. Go ahead.
Hi. My name is Natalie Calder. I am currently a manager at a utility company in New York.
Okay, perfect.
And my I'm hearing you all talk and I'm like, oh gosh, I went to school 4 years ago, completed my master's in IO psych, and I wanted to get back to it. So because it's really beneficial and I want to use it in my organization, but I also want to branch out and be on my own. Right? And be an entrepreneur. But I'm hearing you all talk, and I'm like, I had no experience whatsoever. Like, I got all the teaching and no hands-on experience, right? And that's how I learn best. They're all different learners, and I learn best by hands-on. So I think it was, I'm gonna mess up her name just like you probably was just now, Tyriana. I don't know. Like, I'm hearing her talk about her program that she's in, and I'm like, gosh, where are you? Like, I want to be in that program.
I know.
Yeah.
It's a great one.
Yeah. So, but I want to get back to it. I did life coaching, and I want to try to like blend it together, and I don't know how.
Yeah.
Right. So, I'm so happy that you're having this session, so that I can learn how to get myself together, because I really want to move out of working for someone and work for myself. Right.
Yeah.
I'm at that stage now where I just want to be home, see my kids, grow up and enjoy life with them. That's what I want to do. But of course I can't do it unless I'm working, at home.
Right.
So
Yeah, well, if your organization, that's one thing I would ask, do they provide you PD funds for professional development, or if they do?
they do.
Okay, then the course would be an amazing start for you, just to start getting back into this whole IO thinking and how, like you said, how to create it for yourself, what it looks like for you and your own lived experience. Because it's going to give you that foundation of the research and how to translate the research into practice. I do highly believe that is the skill set we're missing as IOs, and that keeps us in the loop with everybody else. Is that we know what to do, we know the problems, we can see the problems. I'm sure you sit in your organization, you're like, or in the utility organization, you can be like, that's an issue, that's a people issue, that's a process issue, that, like, I'm sure you can see it, but then it's like, well, how do I approach my boss and be like, in this particular situation that I've observed, here's some tips, or maybe here's some best practices that I uncovered in research that might help. Why don't you consider that? That's the part we're missing in IO to make us be an elevated practitioner. Is that we can see all the issues. Like, even like if you did coaching, I'm sure you could see 2 people talking and you're like, they really need some better communication skills, right? Or whatever it is. But it's like, how do we show up in our organization as experts and how do we use the tools and research, which is why I opened my business, and it's called Bridgeify, because we bridge research with practice, is the key. But it's research translation that makes it the door where things open for everybody. So that's kind of how I put it. And when
That's
you
beautiful.
have this skill set of research translation, it's a different ballgame. It really is. And people will now come to you and say, oh, Natalie, last time you gave us these best practices from these particular articles, like, this is another thing going on here. Like, what do you think? And then they're going to ask you, like, what do you think? People come to me, like, what do you think, Patty? And I always say, give me a minute. Let's talk a little bit more and give me some time so I can look at what the current research is saying. And we look at
Right.
research for 5 years, right? We don't, sometimes we go past 5 years, but academically, they tell us keep it in within the 5-year range.
Yeah. Yeah.
But now I know, and then I find the research, I translate it, and I say, here's some best practices that I found that I think you might want to consider. And here are your citations. Like, here are the people that did it. So you're credible, you're showing information, you're not just pulling things out of the air with, I think this works. No, this particular study said that in this industry, blah, 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 blah. Right. And so it's a different ballgame when you can be that person.
Right. I agree.
So ask them if you need me to send them more information or advocate for you to come to the course. Happy to do so. Just let me know. We can connect after.
Great, because I need you to.
Okay. Yes. So let them know, but I can send them. I know sometimes organizations want a little bit more oomph to what you're going to be learning. Happy to provide more of that, and even direct invoices. Sometimes it's the payment that causes the problem when I'm like, I could have just invoiced you. They're like, what? I'm okay. I could do that. To let this person come in, like, yes. So just let me know.
Okay, thank you. Will do.
Thank you for being here.
You're welcome.
All right, so we're getting close to our steps, our action steps. I forgot what they were, but our action steps towards the end of the call. So I usually ask all the speakers to kind of have share with us some action steps that everybody can take right after the call. We have this, and Natalie, you're more than welcome to keep coming back to this student meetups. We meet twice a month. I am in a transition space right now, so it may be once August, once September, and then we might just pick up after December, because I know although holidays happen and all those good things are going on, sometimes we're in break from school and we want to stay connected to what's happening. So we'll see where that goes, but we're going to keep having them. We have more speakers coming up, so please keep coming back so you can keep asking questions and see where you want to take all of this. Diana, you can tell us if these are helpful or not. We're like, yay, nah. Great. Okay, cool. I think we've learned a lot of things, but anyway, action steps. So these are things that I ask speakers to just share with us so we have something to work on until we meet with the next speaker. And then we just constantly and proactively are working on our professional or academic journey. So we're not just coming to this student meetups and getting great information, but not really doing anything with it. So it's a way to hold ourselves accountable so we can keep moving forward with what we're learning. So Dr. Patty, what do you got for us?
So I think so SEBOC, actually, we did a Jeremy and some of the other of the advisors under SEBOC did a list of all the IO expertise, and I think they have it on their website, and it's like all the types of things that IOs can do, right, for anything. I think there's even like data management, and then there's HR and training and development. I would look for that list. Maybe Gabby, you can ask Jeremy for that list. I have it too, and I mean I could send it to you. And people, you should really start seeing, what do you love to do, right? Natalie says she wants to get out and wants to do her own thing, but you have to do something you love to do. And there is an IO component to it, and I'm sure there is. So I would start there, like kind of do a little bit of self-reflection, right? That we talk about in coaching and so forth, of what do I really love to do? For me, I love to research. Like I could sit in front of a computer and read journal articles all day if that was my job. Which kind of is my job, but I have to do other things to have my business. But I love researching because I uncover amazing information that nobody else is talking about. And so I like the uniqueness that comes with being a researcher translator. And so find out what you like. Talk to people that are, once you figure that out, talk to somebody in IO that's doing that same expertise, whether if it's HR, IT, organizational development, whatever, nonprofit. Find those people and just ask for their time. People will give you their time. Can I have 30 minutes? People ask me all the time for 30 minutes. And I'm like, yes, I'm happy to give you 30 minutes. So that would be kind of the third step. Speak with people that are already doing that. Find other groups start networking, especially on LinkedIn, and like yourself, Gabby, that you have these different opportunities that you're learning from different people, and really start honing in on where you see your path going. Because if you don't do that for yourself, no one else is going to do it for you. And so there's always a possibility. And so we're always surprised, not surprised, but we're always very proud of the interns that come from the Bridgify group, because they grow in the process of learning just how to translate research, because they're translating their own career success at the same time of what they love to do. And so a lot of them come out with jobs at the end of their internship or different opportunities because their confidence level has shifted. So once you're able to hone in on what you love to do, you're talking to people in that field, you're doing your homework, you're networking, your confidence level will shift. I guarantee you. I would be biased if I didn't say come to my course. I would love for you all to be part of our course. And so that would be wonderful. I think that's another great step. Find those training opportunities that are going to help you, and continue just being inquisitive. I think those are the kind of those 5 steps of that you could continue doing for yourself. And the universe will repay you back with everything that you want. So Natalie, I think in a year, I'm going to put it out in the universe. Natalie, you'll have your plan on how you're going to step out and step into your own business. So I'll just throw that out there for you.
I receive it. I receive it.
So yeah, but thank you, Gabby. I
I
appreciate it.
love that. Of course. Do you want to take a look at the chat and see if that's the document that you're talking about? It's the one that Ian put together. And while Dr. Bachi does that, I wanted to share with you all as well. The Work Cookie podcast just had some super awesome conversations around AI and research and how to use it academically and how to use it professionally. And my God, I mean, I think Ian was in it, and I can't remember who else, but there was a number of people who are studying AI and who are studying the ethics of AI, and so much information that people think is common sense. It's not, even for us that are in this space of learning and we're interacting with it daily. You can go on there. I don't know if they're live just yet, but you can always go to the Work Cookie podcast in the SEBOC website, and you'll find their latest podcast episodes, and you will learn so much on how to use it effectively, how to use it ethically, and how much we shouldn't trust AI, because one of the things they said, it's very intelligent. However, it can't tell from right or wrong. It just tells you what's been put into it. So, trash in, trash out is what we know as researchers and in school. So it was a super interesting conversation. Just a little side note, I learned a lot, especially with AI being so new in our fields everywhere. So does that look like the accurate document?
No, it's not.
No?
I'll look through my stuff, and then I can send it to you, and you're happy for you to, yeah. Also, this is the free online databases. Let me send it to you in the chat too, that we give our students. It's probably there's probably more free online databases that you can use if you're not part of an educational program, and you're just, like myself, I'm no longer in a program and things like that. There's a lot of different other online databases that you can use that are free. But I'll check for that list. Gabby,
Okay.
to see what
And if not, everybody, please feel free to add me on LinkedIn and then send me a message, or you don't have to add me. You can just send me a message. And then I will look for this, and we'll make sure we distribute it if that's something that you want to get your hands on. I feel like it's probably somewhere at my computer, but I don't have it with me. So I don't know how to navigate my way through an iPad because I just don't. So, but I will make sure I get that to you if that's something that you require. Okay, let me check. So we have 4 minutes, and I do want to honor everybody's time. Dr. Papi, do you have any last words of wisdom that you want to share with us?
Looking at this document that you provided, I mean, I think this is great also. As I'm looking through just the basics and things like that, yeah, there's just so much information, again, like everywhere we're at, there's so much information. Is how are you, looking at this information? How are you using it for yourself? Is really the question. And yeah, it's going to take some researching. I know someone, I just read it really quick. Someone in the chat said, I love researching too. Oh my God, yeah, it's Ty, totally. Like you and I need a hook, like researchers, another tool, maybe Ty, that you might be interested in. All of you also, It's kind of like a Myers-Briggs, but it's not. It's called Kolbe, Kolbe assessment. Kolbe A, Kolbe assessment. So this is a cognitive assessment. It's not a personality assessment. It's not like DISC where it's going to tell you whether you're dominant or influence. No, this is a cognitive assessment that assesses where you store your energy and then your cognitive way of thinking. And so there are 4 categories that you fall into if you take the Kolbe, and one is called a fact finder. And so anybody that loves to research or that has, if they're going to plan a trip, like literally sits in front of their computer for hours planning their trip, you're a fact finder. And so it tells you how to work more efficiently as a fact finder and how to kind of, you have to pull yourself back because sometimes you do it too much. The other one most common is a quick start. So it's those individuals that just kind of pick up their bags and they leave. They go to Europe, like without a doubt. Or a lot of entrepreneurs are quick starts because they're like, I want to start a business, and they start a business and they don't think it through. And so it's a really great assessment for everybody that's also trying to learn more about themselves. The Kolbe was the one assessment that helped me understand what my business was going to be doing. And since research and I was a high fact finder, I think I was like an 8. I was like, okay, I like fact finding. I don't lose energy sitting in front of the computer fact finding. Because it talks about that, like what really pulls your energy. People that just get up and go to Europe, that really pulls my energy. And I'm like, oh my God, I get anxiety. I'm like, you didn't really even plan on your ticket? No, I just went. I have friends like that. Yeah, it's a great assessment. So just another last tidbit of information to help you kind of, again, find who you are as an IO. It's a great assessment. Kolbe, Kolbe A index.
Awesome. I think that's a really good way to stop here, making sure that, like I said, I want to honor everybody's time. But I think we've really just covered everything from research to figuring out where we want to go with our IO desires and wishes, and where do we want to go and do the best of what we can to make it better out there. So, Dr. Patty, thank you so much for making some time. I really appreciate you. And everybody, please reach out, look into this course. I think it could be a really good place to get started. Even if you're jumping back in, if you feel like you don't have the skills, I think as an IO, that's going to be something we have to have the ability to bring all this information into these organizations, because like I said, I was working for an institution that you would assume would have the skills and the tools, but they didn't. And that's not their fault. It's just that they didn't have it. And I think it's really cool when you come in and you're like, hey, I got the skills, or hey, I know someone who does and I understand that I can get you there. So I think we can do a lot of great in the world if we do that. So everybody, thank you so much for showing up today. And I will go ahead and end this call. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Nice to meet everybody. It was a pleasure. Nice to meet you all. Stay connected. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome. Thank you for your time. Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.